Have you ever just stared out the window of a commercial jet at, 35,000 feet and actually thought about the physics keeping you up there? I mean, we're talking about a 100-ton metal tube, literally suspended in thin air, packed with people, luggage, and enough fuel to cross an ocean. It feels like magic, right? Well, today in this explainer, we're stripping away the mystery. We're going to dive right into the brilliant engineering and the absolute laws of physics that make modern aviation possible, so we can figure out exactly how an airplane really works.
Okay, to understand a machine this incredibly complex, here's our flight plan. First, we'll look at the fundamental physics of flight. Second, generating lift and thrust. Third, steering a heavy jet. Fourth, cabin and computers. And finally, we'll put it all together with the complete flight sequence. Let's get right into it.
Kicking things off with Section 1, the physics of flight, and the ongoing battle of the four forces. Before we even touch on wings or jet engines, it really helps to understand the absolute foundation of aviation. Every single second a plane is up in the air, it's basically caught in this giant tug of war governed by four immutable forces. It's a constant, continuous balancing act. You've got lift acting upward, actively trying to pull the plane into the sky. Then there's weight acting downward, constantly pulling the aircraft back toward the Earth thanks to gravity. Thrust is acting forward, pushing the plane through the air. And finally, drag acts backward. Think of it as aerodynamic friction that resists the plane's forward motion.
Now, what does this all mean? Well, this incredibly simple balance dictates absolutely everything an airplane does. If you want to cruise perfectly level at a steady speed, your lift must perfectly balance your weight, and your thrust must perfectly balance your drag. It's a flawless equilibrium. But if the pilots increase thrust so it's suddenly greater than drag, the plane accelerates. If lift becomes greater than weight, you climb. And if drag overtakes thrust, well, you slow down. Every single maneuver up in the sky really just comes back to manipulating this delicate four-way tug of war.
Moving right along to Section 2, generating lift and thrust. Here we'll look at wings, engines, and bust a few myths along the way. So how exactly does the airplane actually manipulate those four forces? Let's talk about the wing. It's not just a flat piece of metal, it's a carefully engineered aerodynamic structure known as an airfoil. As the plane moves forward, this airfoil essentially changes the direction of the airflow, creating a pressure distribution around its surface that pushes the wing upward. And what's absolutely fascinating in the research is that airspeed actually has a squared relationship with lift. That means simply speeding up dramatically increases the lift generated. It's a huge multiplier. The wing also relies heavily on its angle of attack, which is just the angle between the wing itself and the oncoming air. Tipping that nose up slightly, that helps generate even more lift. Now, the research highlights something super interesting here. You might have actually been taught in school that air travels faster over the curved top of the wing just so it can meet up with the air traveling under the flat bottom at the exact same time. Well, it turns out that's an oversimplification. Real lift is created because the wing effectively forces a massive amount of air downward. And thanks to Newton's third law of motion, forcing air down pushes the airplane up, coupled with some really complex pressure differences across the wing's surface. So no meeting up required. The sources also clarify a very common misconception about the word stall in aviation, which, let's be honest, usually sounds absolutely terrifying. People often think of stall means the jet engines just sputtered and died, kind of like an old car on a steep hill. Actually, scratch that, a stall has absolutely nothing to do with the engines. It is purely an aerodynamic issue. It literally just means the wing's angle of attack got too steep, which causes the smooth airflow over the wing to separate and break apart. When that happens, the wing can no longer produce enough lift. But the engines, they're usually humming along just fine. Okay, let's move to the engines and see how this builds. Because to get that air flowing over the wings, you definitely need thrust. Modern passenger jets use turbofan engines, and the whole process basically breaks down into 5 quick steps. First, a massive fan pulls air in. Second, some of that air enters the core and gets heavily compressed. Third, fuel is mixed in and continuously ignited in a combustion chamber. Fourth, those explosive, incredibly hot gases blast through a turbine, spinning it, and finally, that high-energy flow shoots right out the exhaust. But here's the real secret to modern high-bypass turbofans. Most of the air sucked in by that giant front fan actually bypasses the fiery core entirely. It just gets shoved backward extremely fast. And remember, jet engines do not propel the plane by pushing against the air behind them like a tire gripping asphalt. It's pure conservation of momentum. By accelerating a massive, heavy amount of air backward, the airplane is thrust forward as an equal and opposite reaction. Honestly, that giant front fan is the true star of modern subsonic efficiency.
All right, Section 3, steering a heavy jet, and exactly how pilots control 100 tons of metal up in the sky. So we're airborne with plenty of thrust and lift, but how exactly do pilots maneuver gracefully at 500 miles per hour? Well, think of the airplane rotating in 3D space around 3 imaginary invisible lines or axes. This matrix is basically your mental model. Pitch is raising the nose up or down, and that's controlled by the elevators on the horizontal tail. Roll is dipping one wing down and the other up, controlled by the ailerons on the outer wings. And yaw is sweeping the nose left or right, controlled by the vertical tail's rudder. By combining these 3 movements, a pilot can point the aircraft literally anywhere in the sky. This brilliantly illustrates a point the source emphasizes heavily. People often assume the rudder on the tail acts kind of like the steering wheel of a car, to turn the plane left or right. It doesn't. Airplanes turn primarily by rolling. When the pilot uses the ailerons to bank the wings, the massive upward force of lift physically tilts sideways. And that sideways slice of lift literally pulls the airplane through the turn. The rudder is mostly just there to keep the tail falling smoothly in a coordinated way, not to force the turn itself. Pretty cool, right? But what happens when we need to fly slowly to land without, falling out of the sky? Because remember, less speed means exponentially less lift. Well, we use low-speed control devices. Flaps extend out from the back of the wing, and slats extend from the front. Together, they physically change the shape of the entire wing, making it larger and highly curved. This lets the plane generate immense lift even at incredibly slow speeds. And those spoilers? Those are the panels that pop up on top of the wing to intentionally ruin the airflow. They kill the lift when you want to descend rapidly or make sure the plane actually sticks to the runway. Moving to Section 4, cabin and computers. These are the hidden systems keeping humans alive and perfectly on course. So the aerodynamics outside are all sorted out, but inside there is a whole suite of hidden systems. Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer necessity of these setups. Jets cruise at 35,000 feet because the air up there is wonderfully thin, which drastically reduces drag and saves a ton of fuel. But obviously, humans can't breathe up there. So the environmental system pumps in conditioned air to maintain a safe, comfortable cabin altitude. Meanwhile, thousands of gallons of jet fuel are stored right beneath your feet, cleverly housed inside the wings themselves to keep the massive weight centered and structurally sound. And on the outside of the plane, tiny pitot tubes constantly measure ram air pressure to tell the flight computers exactly how fast the plane is moving. Because of all this amazing technology, it's super easy to assume the computers just fly the planes entirely by themselves. But modern aircraft automation is really just an incredibly sophisticated assistant. The autopilot can hold altitudes, track navigation, and manage thrust, sure, but the cockpit is a command center. The pilots are constantly monitoring, verifying inputs, managing weather strategies, and making executive decisions. They are the true commanders up there. The computer is really just following their carefully programmed orders. Finally, Section 5, the complete flight sequence. This is where we bring all the pieces together. We've covered the physics, the wings, the engines, the controls, and the internal systems. Watching this all synthesize together into one continuous, beautifully choreographed process is basically a masterclass in energy management. At takeoff, the engines unleash massive thrust. The plane accelerates, airflow increases over the extended flaps, and the pilot pitches up, rotating the plane into the sky. During climb, the plane trades that excess thrust for altitude. In cruise, up at 35,000 feet, we reach that perfect force balance we talked about earlier. Lift equals weight and thrust equals drag. During descent, thrust is pulled back, spoilers might pop up, and the plane glides down the carefully managed path. And finally, landing. The gear comes down, flaps are fully extended for slow flight, and the plane gently transfers its weight from the wings right back to the wheels. And as soon as those wheels touch down, the source highlights a truly fascinating detail. You know that massive roar you hear upon landing, and you feel yourself pushed forward in your seat? That's reverse thrust. But the jet engines absolutely do not run in reverse. They don't just spin backward. Instead, mechanical doors literally open on the engine cowling to catch that massive high bypass exhaust air and redirect it forward. It acts kind of like a giant aerodynamic parachute blowing against the plane's forward momentum. Decelerating 100 tons of kinetic energy is a total team effort. The moment of touchdown triggers 3 things almost simultaneously. First, the spoilers on the wings deploy fully, entirely killing the wings lift and forcing the full weight of the heavy aircraft down onto the tires. Second, that extra weight allows the massive, incredibly powerful carbon wheel brakes to grip with maximum friction without skidding. And third, that reverse thrust redirects the engine air forward. Together, these three systems safely bring you to a perfectly smooth halt on the runway. So the crucial point is this: an airplane is basically a symphony of engineering. The engines accelerate air backward to thrust forward, the wings manipulate that speed to push air downward and lift the plane up, the tail controls the orientation, the pressurization keeps you breathing, the computers assist, and the pilots command. There is literally no single magical component holding you up. It is entirely a controlled, perfectly predictable interaction between air, metal, gravity, and human oversight.
And that is exactly how an airplane actually works. You now know more about the physics happening right outside the cabin than probably 99% of your fellow passengers. So I leave you with this question. The next time you sit in that window seat, accelerating down the runway and feeling the nose lift into the air, which of these invisible forces, balanced equations, or brilliant systems will you think about first? Safe travels, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.